Good afternoon. Welcome to another Facebook Live session of SpeakingTree.in with me, Ishita. Have you ever thought that while we all gain knowledge in the traditional sense of the term, it is wisdom that we all struggle with? However, true wisdom comes from enlightenment. And to talk more about enlightenment today, we have Andrew Cohen live with us. Andrew Cohen is an internationally respected spiritual teacher and the founder of Evolutionary Enlightenment. Raised in a secular Jewish family in New York City, he experienced a spontaneous revelation of cosmic consciousness at the age of 16 and embarked on a lifelong spiritual journey. Welcome to SpeakingTree.in, sir.
Thank you.
Sir, to start off with, what exactly is evolutionary enlightenment and how does it benefit us? For a layman, what does evolutionary enlightenment mean?
Well, evolutionary enlightenment takes the traditional notion of Eastern Enlightenment, which is the awakening to consciousness. It's the awakening to consciousness. It's the discovery of who we really are, beyond the small separate self, beyond the small ego. It's the discovery of what's called being, or the essence of existence. It's the realization that at the deepest level we've never been born and we're never going to die. And at the self we all experience ourselves to be is actually immortal and eternal. And the nature of this immortal and eternal self is self-arising joy, love, freedom, and bliss. It's what Vedanta has been speaking about for thousands of years. So in evolutionary enlightenment, we're taking this original Vedantic discovery, the discovery also that the Buddha made, and putting it in the context, the Western context of evolution, which means that the Western context of evolution tells us that in and through the time process, life is evolving, mind is evolving, human beings are evolving, and also the essence of enlightenment is evolving also.
So, we all know that enlightenment holds the key to a personal development. And how can that happen? How can we personally develop ourselves both mentally, physically, and spiritually by enlightenment?
Well, I think the essence of how we can develop in this way is by discovering who we really are. So the most fundamental spiritual questions are: who am I? Why am I here? Why does the universe exist? Why is there something versus nothing? So many of us enter into the human experience without ever asking ourselves the deepest questions of who we really are and what the purpose of life really is. So the whole purpose of spiritual awakening, discovering what enlightenment is all about, has to do with having the direct experience, the direct conscious revelation of the fact that who we are is actually eternal, immortal, unborn, and undying. And also to realize that our true nature is joy, love, bliss, freedom, and a kind of happiness that most people rarely experience. And then the experience of that kind of joy, that kind of happiness, that kind of freedom, and that kind of awakened intelligence comes from a universal source. Most people call this universal source God or Spirit. And so when any one of us realizes that that's who we really are, that we're not the small self, we're not the small ego, it's quite a big revelation, because the ego and the small self suffers quite a bit. And it's always trying to keep up with, like we say in the West, trying to keep up with the Joneses. So we have the same equivalent here in India, but everybody's running. So full of stress and tension and worried about money, survival, marriage, children. So many relative issues that are driving everybody crazy, and so much of suffering so intensely. But the reason we're suffering is because is not because life isn't difficult, because life is and can be very difficult. But the fundamental reason of the existential suffering I'm speaking about is because most of us don't really know who we are, and most of us have no idea why we're really here. So discovering the answers to these perennial and fundamental questions gives us a completely different understanding of what it means to be alive.
And before we move further, please write in the questions on enlightenment, on life, happiness, anything that you can ask Andrew sir, and we'll take them. Please write in the question to the comment section. So you mentioned that you've spoken about happiness. There's a saying that we all talk about, is that when you run after something, it runs away from you. So the same thing with happiness. Is it something that you actually have to run after? Is it something that should happen to you naturally? And how can really the human being actually chase the elusive heart of happiness?
Well, I don't think happiness is elusive. It just depends on where we're looking for it. So if the point of spiritual enlightenment is that there's the discovery that the ultimate source of happiness, the happiness that is elusive, is discovered when we find out, as I've been saying, who we really are. And who we really are is all the things I've been describing. And it's a discovery that I am consciousness. I am conscious, and I am self-existing, self-aware consciousness itself, and the ultimate nature of the life experience is fundamentally based upon this eternal principle of consciousness. So when we all stop looking outside ourselves and look inside ourselves, and learn, for example, and begin to learn how to meditate. Meditation is the contemplation, is the direct contemplation of the experience of consciousness itself. And when we begin to pay attention not to our thoughts and not to the external objects that exist in the world around us, when we begin to look within and to begin to contemplate the nature of our own consciousness, we realize that consciousness has no beginning and has no end, is timeless and formless and beginningless and endless. And as we continue to contemplate its nature, the nature of consciousness, we also begin to realize that consciousness itself, its nature is self-existing joy and happiness. So as India's great saints and seers have been telling us for a millennium, for thousands of years, the nature of consciousness itself, the nature of your own consciousness and my own consciousness, is self-existing joy and bliss. So the spiritual realization is, I was looking for happiness outside myself in getting a new house, a new car, a new wife, a new husband, a new child, a new something, a new mink coat, a new Porsche, a new Ferrari, a new something. So we think if I get something, if I acquire something new, I'm going to experience happiness. And of course, the perennial spiritual realization is that happiness is not found outside of ourselves, but is found through the direct discovery and revelation of our own true nature. This is the traditional teachings of Vedanta, and they are as true today as they were 3,000 to 5,000 years ago.
And we've spoke about happiness, and we've got a question instantly. Someone's asking, how can I become happy again when I've been in some sad situations in the past which have broken me from inside?
Well, I can only repeat what I just said, because we've all been in sad situations, but if we truly want to be happy, we have to find the ultimate source of happiness. And the ultimate source of happiness is found in the discovery of who we really are. And any other source of happiness besides self-knowledge will be a happiness that's fleeting, a happiness that has a beginning in time and an ending in time. So everything else gets old except the nature of consciousness, your own consciousness. It's the very ground of our own experience in every single moment, but most of us miss it because we're always looking outside of our own self. And all we need is for someone to gently and kindly point us back to our own true nature, so we can have that same discovery. This is what all the great saints and seers and sages have been telling all of us for millennia. And it's more or less delivering the same message.
Right. So look within. Look within is the key. So I was reading some of your articles, and I found something very interesting. You said when one lets go of one's ego, a human being is born. So how can we really let go of our ego as and not think about life in wins and losses?
Well, the only way to be able to transcend the ego is by wanting to be free with a capital F-R-E-E. You have to really want to be free. Most people are completely infatuated with the small self, with the small identity. And so many of us want to be seen and recognized for being wonderful and special and better and superior and more beautiful and more intelligent and more everything than other people. We want to be seen as being special and standing out and being separate from others, instead of realizing, as the great realizers have told us, that there is only one self, and we're all that same one self, looking out at the world through these separate bodies and minds and personalities. But when we have a spiritual awakening, we recognize that the body, the mind, and the personality is not who we are, but they are vehicles through which consciousness, or the energy and intelligence that created the universe, can awaken to itself and realize itself through these body, minds, and personalities. So you're not your body, mind, and personality. I'm not my body, mind, and personality. I'm the energy and intelligence that created the universe and is creating the universe, awakening to itself and realizing itself through this body, mind, and personality. So if you realize who you really are, and I realize who I really am, we realize that who we are is one and the same. We're that same energy and intelligence awakening to itself through these separate mind, bodies, and personalities. And if more and more of us can have this realization, we can live together in happiness and in love and in compassion and mutual support.
Right, of course. Please write in the questions in the comment section and we'll take them. So spirituality, we all know that being spiritual helps you attain peace of mind, but can spirituality make you a better person? And if yes, and how?
Well, of course, recognizing who you really are, going from an understanding of the nature of the self as from one that's being false to one that's being true, of course, is going to make us a better person, because now we're going to be in alignment with the truth itself. And with spiritual realization, we're in alignment with the truth with a capital T, the absolute truth. So anybody who's living in alignment with the absolute truth, which is in alignment with the revelations of the greatest saints and seers, well, it's not a matter of being a better person. I wouldn't put it that way. It's not a moral difference. It has to do with I've become a conscious person, someone who knows who they are and knows what the truth of existence is. Anybody who knows the truth and is living in alignment with the truth will be a more conscious person, and more conscious people tend to be more sane people. Because the world tends to be a rather crazy place, so the more of us that can express deep, profound sanity, the better for all of us. No?
Right. So there's another saying which says that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. But there's another side to it, that is suffering really important to learn the value of life? What about people who are born without any struggles? Do they really learn the value of life? And is it like an exaggeration to say that you have to suffer so that you can improve yourself or get a better life?
Well, I would put it this way. I would say, unfortunately, I do think it's true that very few of us get to that point in our own development where we are ready and willing to take life seriously and to take our own experience of being alive seriously. People that have an easier time of it tend to take life for granted, take other people for granted, take wealth, comfort, and security for granted. And unfortunately, sometimes death, illness, pain, suffering, and loss can sometimes be the catalyst to getting someone to wake up and begin to ask big and important questions. Like I've been saying, who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of existence? And why does something exist versus nothing? I mean, these are the big and important questions. And I think it's very difficult for us to be able to live a meaningful and purposeful life unless we've struggled with the most fundamental existential questions of existence. And most of us don't tend to do that because we're so distracted by mundane things, relative things, mundane things, superficial things. And that's the problem. So what does it take to wake us up? Wake us up, wake us up. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Why am I here? And if we don't wake up, we can tend to just waste our whole life away and then die never having any sense of what this has all been about. So
right.
We don't want that to happen, do we? No, we want to wake up.
Wake up. Right.
Even here at the Times of India, right? Even at Speaking Tree.
So please wake up. Wake up. Smell the coffee. So we get a lot of queries on meditation, of course,
yeah.
And if you could just throw some light on how to go about it. For a complete beginner, how to meditate, and how long should you do it for?
Well, the meditation issue is very important. So the issue is, most of us are always dwelling upon the objects that arise in consciousness. Right. The objects that arise in consciousness begin with thoughts, feelings, memories, opinions, belief systems. We're always thinking about this and thinking about that and thinking about this and thinking about that. So we're always dwelling upon one or another of the objects that arise in consciousness, which, as I've said, begin with thoughts, but then become other people, the whole world. We're always thinking about ourselves, thinking about other people, thinking about thinking. And thinking about thinking makes us feel very crazy. So the whole point of meditation is to stop thinking and to begin to contemplate, as I've been saying repeatedly this morning, contemplating the nature of consciousness, which means contemplating the nature the deepest truth about who we all really are. So the way to learn how to do this is to look inside yourself. We all have to begin to close our eyes, look deeply within, and to stop to have a relationship with the content of consciousness. Stop to have a relationship with your thoughts. Stop to have a relationship with your memories. Stop to have a relationship with your fears. Stop to have a relationship with your desires. Stop to have a relationship with your opinions. Stop to have a relationship with belief systems. Stop to have any relationship with anything. And when no relationship always involves two, but no relationship means there's only one. If there's no relationship, there's only one. And when you cease to have a relationship with the content of your consciousness and the content of your experience, you will suddenly discover consciousness, which is the ground of your own experience in every single moment. You'll discover consciousness, and when you discover consciousness, you realize consciousness is who I am. Consciousness is the ultimate nature of everything that is. And when you discover consciousness, you recognize that consciousness is the elusive oneness that all the great saints and seers speak about. And when you discover that oneness, not two-ness, but oneness, not two-ness, is the nature of your own self, you realize, oh, it's been here all along. It's been here all along, and I've missed it, because I've been looking at the movie, which I consider to be my life, which is driving me crazy, because it's leaving me unhappy. I'm always wanting, lost in fears and desires and self-concern, worried about what other people think, worried about what I don't have. I'm driving myself crazy when we discover the nature of consciousness, which is who we always have been, and it's always been the case. It's the ultimate relief. Whereas, oh, I've always been here and I didn't even know it. So the simple instructions about meditation are to cease the process of relationship with the mind. It means stop having a relationship with any objects, thoughts, ideas, memories, opinions with your mind. Assume a position of no relationship and awaken to the truth of who you really are, which is consciousness in every single moment. Discover the oneness that is the nature of consciousness and experience that primordial freedom that's always there.
There's, we also say that if you're not at peace of mind, if you're in a negative state of mind, you also tend to attract negative things towards you.
Like attracts like.
Yeah. So, someone's asking that, I always tend to attract negative things, whether it's relationships or the bad job or...
Don't do it.
So
Stop doing that. Stop doing it.
So
but if someone says, I have to stop eating sweets, and they grab a piece of chocolate, what would you tell them?
Don't eat it.
You say, put the chocolate down.
Yeah.
Because if we want to be free and we want to be happy, only we can take responsibility for that. No one else can do that for us. So how can I do it? In the teaching of Evolutionary Enlightenment, I say, if you want it, the most important thing is to want to be free, to want to be happy more than anything else. I want to be free. I want to be happy more than anything else. It doesn't mean I want to have a boyfriend, I want to have a girlfriend, I want a new house, want a new car, want $1 million. It's I want to be free. I want to be free first and foremost. I want to be free first and foremost. And only if I want to be free first and foremost, and freedom means happiness, will it be possible to attain happiness. And if you want to be free more than anything else, you start doing the right things. You stop doing self-destructive things.
Right.
If we don't want to be free, we do self-destructive things because we're suffering. But if we want to come to the end of suffering, we have to want to be free also from suffering. It's something that requires courage, enormous courage, fearless self-discipline, and fearless self-confidence, belief in ourselves. And we also have to love ourselves. You have to love yourself. We all have to love ourselves first. Stop hating ourselves, believing in ourselves, believing in our own potential for freedom and spiritual happiness, and for goodness. But we have to do it ourselves. No one can do this for us. You have to do it for yourself. I have to do it. People can help us.
Yes.
Teachers, spiritual teachers and gurus can help us. But ultimately, we have to accept responsibility for even receiving help from other people. It's up to us. And the reason why a lot of people don't develop so much is because they keep wanting other people to fix them, and nobody can fix us. We have to do it ourselves. We all have to grow up, become big boys and girls, and be willing to take responsibility for our own lives and our own happiness and our own joy and our own freedom. And you can do it, we can do it, we can all do it if we really want to.
Right, right. So, grow up, as Andrew sir says. Sir, we have another question. It says, what changes do we need to make in our lives in order to be happy? Of course, you've answered bits and
We have to
bits,
want to be free more than anything else. More than you want to, more than you love your husband, more than you love your wife, more than you love your children, more than you love money. You have to want to love yourself, capital S, the self, the true self, God, spirit, ultimate reality, truth, freedom, consciousness, Satchidananda. More than anything else, it has to come first. God has to come first. Spirit has to come first. And only if God, truth, spirit, consciousness, moksha comes first, will there be any hope of a different kind of life. A lot of people are just trying to fix the leaks in the boat instead of maybe getting out of the boat. To get out of the boat, they say, yeah, get out of the boat.
Get out.
Instead of just trying to fix the leaks, get out of the boat.
Right. We don't have much time left, so please write in the questions. We'll take whatever questions we can cram in. So there's this the concept of God, means different things to different people.
Yes.
So, for example, an atheist, he might not believe in God, but might believe in a, my higher power. So, do you have to believe in God, or is it okay to believe in like a higher power in order to be spiritual?
You have to believe in yourself.
You have to believe in yourself, of
Believe
course.
in yourself and your capacity to liberate yourself from ignorance, foolishness, stupidity, and ego. You have to believe in yourself. Believe in yourself, you can do it. And then find out what the truth is. Is God a white man with a white beard living up on a cloud somewhere? Is God Lord Shiva or the Buddha? Find out. But ultimately what you will find out, and what all great saints and seers find out, is that who and what God is absolute spirit, and absolute spirit is the ultimate nature of who you are and who I am.
I was reading an article yesterday in which you mentioned that we all need a spiritual superhero, and I really like that. So what exactly does that mean? Who is a spiritual superhero? That term just stuck with me, and it was very interesting.
A spiritual superhero are the great realizers, the great saints and sages, men and women throughout history who have done the very thing that I've been speaking about ever since we've been speaking together. They've actually found out who they really are, and they become living exemplars, living manifest expressions of self-aware, enlightened spirit in action in through human form.
Right.
And when you meet such a person, it changes your life forever. When I met my guru here in India in 1986, Hari Lal Punjaji, he changed my life forever, and I'm forever in his debt, because after sitting in front of him for 10 minutes, I had the most profound spiritual awakening that changed my life forever, and I'm eternally in his debt.
Great. So of course, sir, we've been talking so much, and people have been listening to you. I'm sure they want to take more. So if you can just tell me about your upcoming retreats or programs,
sure.
And the viewers can.
So tomorrow I'm going to Rishikesh, and I'll be giving satsang in Rishikesh from the 1st to the 5th of January, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. at Somany Bhavan, and you can get more information in the Times of India Speaking Tree, and also in my website andrewcohen.com. I will also be leading a retreat in Bangalore from January 11th to 16th at the School of Meditation in the School of Ancient Wisdom in Bangalore. And I'll also be teaching here in Delhi on the 6th at the India International Center at 10 a.m. I'll be doing a 3-hour teaching. Hope to see you all there. Much love to everybody, and thank you for listening.
So that's all we have. Thank you, sir. Do you have any last words? Do you have any tips for viewers watching? Anything, any last words you want to?
Please believe it's possible to be free. Please be willing to love yourself and take yourself seriously, so you can become a God-realized person. And if you do that, that realization will help to change the whole world.
Thank you so much. On this note, we'll be wrapping up this session. Wish you all a very happy new year. Hope it's going to be a new beginning for you. And sir, do you have something to add?
I want to wish everyone a happy new year, but please dedicate this new year to your own enlightenment, for everyone else's sake.
So be enlightened, enlighten anyone and everyone around you. Love and be loved. Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
And great being part of this live session with you. And for your daily dose of spirituality, please keep logging to speakingtree.in.